Good morning, everyone. Hi, hello. My name is EJ, and I am back again with another narrated art time lapse video for us to take a look at and hopefully learn a thing or two from. So, yeah, today I am going to talk to you about Stardust. This is a project that I did last year, and hands down, I'll just have to say this is one of my favorite pieces that I had done last year. I just absolutely love how this turned out. I thought I did a really good job on this piece. Unfortunately, the person who commissioned this particular work for me is my niece, right? And she was basically inspired by the movie Transformers 1. And so she created this fan fiction with this particular character, and when I started doing this, I've seen the previews of Transformers 1, but I actually have not seen the movie. Long story short is that I didn't, the style of the robot is basically what I'm trying to get at. The style of the robot does not go along with what my niece wanted. So basically, it didn't fulfill her prompt. That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm so notorious for not fulfilling prompts. I love the piece. I thought the piece was well done. But whether or not it fulfilled the project's goals, it definitely did not. It just did not fulfill it. And we can go over that in a little bit more. But yeah, I could talk some more about like my feelings and sentiments and critiques of this piece in just a little bit. But for now, let's go about the workflow, or let's talk about the workflow. And part of the reason why I really love working this piece is because I actually did a 3D sculpt as my base for my painting. Typically, when I do my 3D bases for my 2D paintings, they're very, very blocky, right? I just stick with generic shapes, the most generic I can have it, and whatnot. So it's typically just cylinders, squares, rectangles, blocky shapes, right? And I typically just lay them out. I typically only spend about an hour or so on Blender, not counting the render times, of course. And then as soon as I'm done, after that hour, setting it up, whatnot, and then doing the render, then I port it over to Krita. For this particular piece, I actually felt the need to speed sculpt, right? This whole thing that we're taking a look at took me about, I'd say 3.5 hours or so. I wanted to say it was one session, but I'm almost quite positive that it was not one session, that it was divided into multiple sessions. So yeah, typically what I considered speed sculpt is like a one session work, right? This one wasn't like a one session work. I actually, divided it up in multiple occasions, but I do believe I did this in one weekend, right? So overall, the time I spent on it was indeed 3.5 hours, maybe even less. So it still kind of qualifies as speed work per se, but it wasn't really like a one session work. I divided it up throughout that weekend that I was working on it. But yeah, I typically don't spend that much time working on my 3D bases. Like I said, I typically stick to just 1 hour at most, just basic shapes. This one, I felt the need to sculpt, so I sculpted. And so that's what basically we're taking a look at. I have not done a hard surface sculpt in forever. I've been mainly sticking with organic shapes and organic characters when it comes to my sculpting and whatnot. So this was absolutely refreshing for me, just because I haven't done any kind of hard surface work in ages when I did this last year. And I think that's part of the reason why I was like so keen on doing this sculpt was simply because of that very fact that I haven't done a hard surface in forever. So yeah, this was really, really fun, because I was just like, I'm just going to let loose. I'm just going to just work on this, see what I could come up with kind of deal. And I love the end product. I love the 2D. The sculpt, not so much. I think there was like a lot of things that I did not like about the sculpt. Well, you can't really get a good product out of a speed sculpt, right? Sculpt in general takes so much longer than, or 3D work in general just takes a lot longer than 2D work, because there's a lot more involved process and there's a lot more refinement that needed to be done. I mean, you're rotating an object, so there's all these dimensions that need to be concerned about compared to like 2D painting. That being said, really good hard surface models and hard surface sculpts almost always take way longer than 3.5 hours I spent on this. So definitely this is a sketch and not like an end product of any kind of sort, right? But I still love it. I mean, it's not quite as good as it could be, but yeah, I thought it was pretty good. There were a few things that I didn't like about the design itself. Like I didn't like the thighs and I didn't like the shoulder pads. Like the very first time I sculpted the arm, I put shoulder pads. You can see that it's gone now. But like there was like this thing that sticks out of her shoulders initially when I sculpted it, and I changed it, right? Because I didn't like it. I don't know why it did not get recorded or why it's not part of the recording, right? But I definitely did change the arm just because I wasn't too happy with it. But yeah, so I just sculpted this pretty quick, trying to follow the general guideline rule for hard surface, which if anyone knows hard surface modeling, there's this very common rule with hard surface, which is basically like the 70-30 rule. You basically want to do 70% of your surface to have very little details, and then 30% of your surface to have a lot of details. And so basically when I was like sculpting it, I just basically stick to that rule. So you can see like the black areas on her body is basically where I'm planning to put all these details later on in my sketch, right? And then of course the white stays white, and then the purple stays purple and whatnot. But that was kind of like the general guideline that I kind of gave myself when I was sculpting it, you know, because I knew that the majority of the details of the robot I'm going to eventually draw later on, right? So yeah, but anyways, I did that sculpt. I set up that sculpt. I did a render, right? And then we got that rendered image, which is kind of faded in the background right now. You can see that rendered image. I'm turning it on and off so I could take a look at my line sketch. But obviously I took that render, put it over to Krita, and then now I'm slowly working on my line sketch, trying to do the majority of the details that I didn't do on my speed sculpt. And I just now realized that head is really huge. Bear in mind that I haven't seen, or I haven't, the last time I did this artwork, or I did this artwork very early last year, right? I actually started December 2024 and I finished it in January of last year. I haven't seen the videos at all until I quickly edited it yesterday. And then when I edit it, I just basically like browsed through it, so I didn't actually take the time to take a look at the video. I typically just do this, right? I just scan the video. I don't typically watch it. So bear in mind that there are times when I watch my time-lapse video is basically like watching it for the first time. There's always this nifty little things that I notice that I'm like, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. So I'm kind of having that deja vu moment right now, which for me is the head. I just now realized that head is very big. I know that I eventually ended up fixing it, because if you look at the end product, the head is not that huge. But yeah, I'm just taking a look at this line sketch and it's pretty big. But anyways, let's go to the process again of the 2D work. In the 2D work, after I put it over the 3D render, I do my line sketch. And then after I do this line sketch, I typically do like a quick color thing where I just lay down some colors, right? And then work on the values. In this case, I didn't do it as much because the render already has some color set in. So for the most part, I kind of just took all my color cues from the render itself, right? And really, the purple and white was purely arbitrary on my part. Actually, you know what? I don't know if my niece asked me to do it in purple and white. I can't remember if she did or not. So yeah, I take it back. I don't know if that was my niece's choice of colors or if it was my choice. But either way, right? The 3D render has set the colors for the most part. And then I didn't really have to consciously think it when I was painting everything on Krita. So yeah, eventually I was basically just going using the colors from the render itself. But anyways, look, there I am reducing the size of the head because it's just too big, right? But anyways, after I'm done with this line sketch, what I'm eventually going to end up doing is merging everything all in one layer, and then I'm going to smudge things around with the smudge textured brush. It's such an amazing brush. And the reason why I do this is because smudging things around kind of gives a painterly look to the piece, right? There's many different ways of doing this. Like you could just probably run a filter to do it really quick, right? But I absolutely love the control that I get when using the textured brush, right? Because I could control the flow of where the strokes will be. So I typically will spend at least an hour just smudging things around just to get that painterly look. And then as soon as I get that painterly look, I basically start my detailing process. Oh, here I am doing the smudge work in the background. My detailing process is pretty much the same. It's basically me delineating my edges, meaning I make my edges sharper, I accentuate the shadows, and I add highlights. And I basically do this throughout the different sections of the painting. So I typically would work background to foreground or top to bottom. In this case, I did that basically. I just stuck to that. You know, I worked the background first and then slowly started working in the figure top to bottom. And so yeah, that's what I'm gonna be doing in the next few minutes. I'm gonna go take a break. I'm actually sick right now. I don't know if you guys can tell through my voice. My voice is kind of nasally, so I'm gonna go drink some water and whatnot. I'm gonna pause my conversation and you guys just enjoy the show. I'll go over and talk some more later on and kind of give you my overall critique of this piece and what my thoughts are and explain more why I love this piece. So yeah, enjoy the show. I'm back from that little break. So yeah, let us talk about the reason why this piece did not fulfill my niece's request from me, or why I considered it not fulfilling the prompt, and why I didn't do research, I guess, or whatnot. Let's talk about the design. The design that I employed on this particular piece, right? Well, let me backtrack. Let me talk real quick about what the prompt was. The prompt, oh, I did mention this. The prompt is basically my niece was inspired by Transformers 1. She created a character called Stardust and wrote a fan fiction of it. Okay, so I did mention that. I realized I mentioned that earlier. But yeah, the reason why Stardust and my version of Stardust does not fulfill the prompt is because of the style of the movie, right? I already have like a particular style that I do with my hard surface / robot work, right? I draw a lot of robots, and if you look through my portfolio is very, very varied. I switch styles a lot. And not necessarily styles, but I switch genres a lot. But one of my absolute favorite genres to draw consistently and constantly is robots. I will draw a robot every now and then, almost religiously, like at least once or twice a year. You'll see me draw a robot at some point in time. So if you look through my portfolio, there's quite a lot of robots on there. The design that I've kind of developed over the years is fairly unique. It's not that it's unique as in no other artist does it the way I do it. There's plenty of artists that do it the way I do it, but it has definitely a unique look. So Transformers, right, has obviously tons of movies in that franchise, and of course those movies were based on a cartoon in the 80s that I grew up on. So let's talk about the design of the 80s cartoon. The 80s cartoon is very, very boxy, very, it's just boxy in general. Now when the 2000 set of Transformer movies came out, they departed from that boxy design, right? There's still a lot of hard surface edges, but there's also like a lot of flowy elements to the robots on those first set of movies. But the one thing for sure that those movies did is that they did a lot of kit bash. And kit bash is basically kind of like layering of like parts. So they did that a lot with the movies. And my robots are very, very heavily inspired by this layering, right? If you look through all my robot designs, there's quite a lot of layers to it. A good example is the legs that I was working on right now. You have this cover layer that's covering up all those tiny little details, like I don't even know what they are. Like they could be just anything that makes her legs work, right? Little machines inside her legs kind of deal, but it's covered up by this layer on top of it. So the Transformers movies, the original set, did that a lot, right? And then Transformers 1 came out, and they were influenced by the layering, but at the same time they wanted to stick to the original 80s cartoon design, which is very boxy. And so that's the reason why my particular design didn't really go with Transformers 1. My niece was very heavily inspired more by the Transformers 1 movie than any of the other movies. This character is basically based on the Transformer 1 characters, right? Not the original set of movies that came out in 2000 and whatnot. And so the reason why this particular piece did not fulfill her prompt is simply because it did not go with the design motif of Transformers 1. If you put this robot in the Transformers 1 movie, it just would not fit. It's too organic looking versus boxy looking, which was the design motif of the Transformers 1 movie. So that's the reason why part of me considers this illustration as a failure, because it didn't really fulfill my niece's prompt. but I still love it. I still love the way I did this piece. I thought this piece was very well done in terms of technique, execution, and just general look. It's my favorite style, I guess, and I couldn't divorce myself from my style enough to go the boxy look. Maybe if I had explored some more, I would have eventually ended up finding a design that is more aligned to the Transformers 1 movie design motif rather than my own design motif. But I didn't experiment a whole lot, right? I just kind of just did my thing. And I'm grateful for my niece for letting me do my thing, because I just literally did my thing for this illustration, right? And so yeah, I love the piece because I love what I ended up coming up with. I thought the design was pretty cool. There's some design elements of my robot that I'm still not immensely too happy about. Like I love the idea of the cape. I really do. I really wanted to give her a cape. I think it's too plain now that I look at it. I think I could have done some more about it. I'm not, I don't know what elements do I not like. I don't know. I'm not too sold on the torso. Like, I love the little elements they put on it, but the torso, kind of sort of nice, kind of sort of not. I don't like her lower arm for sure. Man, that lower arm kind of still bothers. I love the chest area. I thought the detailing that I did on it is awesome. I love the upper arms. Originally, I didn't like that little shoulder pad thing that I'm doing, but then the design that I switched that out with, I like it. I think that rounded arm look was really, really awesome. Feet, I feel I could have done a little bit more work. The face is awesome. And then, of course, the colors. I really love how I did the colors in this one. I thought this was really well done. But yeah, I love the look. I love the piece. It's not quite what my niece was looking, but you know, I did my best. That's all I could say. But yeah, this illustration is almost done. I'm just wrapping up, adding the final color dodge glow, kind of bringing in more of those highlights, and yeah, that's it. That's the end of the illustration. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys learned a thing or two from it. I will catch you guys in the next video. It might not be narrated, but that's okay. Just enjoy the show. But yeah, thank you. I'll see you guys in the next one. Good night.